is Sырбу, and the topic that I'm going to talk about is the development of the English language. Now, the relevance of this topic is that English is relevant in the modern world since English is an international language and is used in many fields of activity. The object of study is, of course, the English language. My purpose of the project is to acquaint the audience with the development of the English language and introduce them to the three eras of the English language, and as well to compare them. Now, I have used different research methods, for example, studying literature and other sources of information, as well as the text analysis. The practical significance of my project is that it can be used at school for English language students for a better and more in-depth language learning. The developed material can be used for quizzes and other different things. Now, let's begin. What is English? Well, English is a global language. It is also known as lingua franca because it is used worldwide. More than 88 countries use English as its primary language, and it is the third most spoken language in the whole world, after Chinese Mandarin and after Spanish. Now, English is divided into three eras. These are Old English, Middle English, and Modern English. Let's start with Old English. Now, Old English started in the 5th century and went on until the 11th, 12th century. The four main distinct dialects Old English had were Old Kentish, Old Northumbrian, Mercian, and West Saxon. Mercian is the dialect that will later on develop into Modern English, the language that we use nowadays, and it is quite similar to the language we use today. Old Northumbrian is a very interesting dialect because it was spoken in the northern part of England, and it represents the ancient speech of the Angles, which is still not very, let's say, studied right now. Old Kentish also does not have very many written records. However, one of the most important written records that we have from Old Kentish is the law codes of the Kentish kings. Now, West Saxon is the only dialect of Old English that has multiple written records and manuscripts. Thanks to the king that was reigning during that time, during the 11th century or even the 10th, we have very many written manuscripts that tells us a lot about the Old English. Now, the Danish invasion, the Norman conquest in 1066 is what led to Middle English. Now, Middle English has had two main historical events that influenced it, which were, as we said, the Norman conquest and later on migration into London. Now, what has the Norman conquest done to the English language? Well, it has, thanks to it, the English language now has multiple synonyms. So, what happened for English to have so many synonyms now? Well, during the Norman conquest, the Norman became the rulers of England. So the elites were now the Norman, who spoke a dialect of Old French. Now, meanwhile, the English people were the usual townsfolk. So this is how it has gone to create many synonyms. For example, one of the most prominent one is cow, which is what the English people, the simpleton, that used to work during Middle English times, made the food of. Meanwhile, beef is what the Norman people would call it, as this is what the elite would eat at that time. Now, migration into London has also influenced the Middle English because of the thorough migration from the Central and East Midlands into London. It has managed to blend in many different cultures from all around that area, from all around England. So thanks to this migration, we have gotten many different words that were not used prior during London times. Now, despite the cultures blending in London, what really has affected the next era of English is the Renaissance era, well, the Renaissance period, as well as the Elizabethan and the Shakespearean, named after the two most famous people. This is where we begin. This is where we go into early modern English, where many and multiple words were borrowed from different languages, for example, Greek and Latin and even French, and when many new neologisms were created. For example, William Shakespeare is the most famous person during that time because he alone has created more than 2,000 words that we use nowadays. For example, assassination, lovely, and multiple other things, as well as countless phrases such as love is blind, laughing stock, and flesh and blood. Now, despite early modern English getting so many new words, the spelling of it was still varied. For example, you could have found 500 different spellings for the word through. Now, we go into the late modern English, which was influenced by two main historical events. This was the rise of the British Empire and the Industrial Revolution. Now, what have these two different events? How have these two different historical events influenced late modern English? Now, the Industrial Revolution, mainly in the USA, has gone into creating many new words for different machinery, different textiles, and just using new words to describe scientific research. For example, we have English has borrowed many different Greek words such as biology, histology, and different other words that had the suffix ology, as well as ism and as, for example, patriotism. Now, how has the rise of the British Empire influenced modern English? Well, colonialism is a two-way thing. So while it was taken for granted that the colonies had to learn English, subsequently the colonies also influenced the modern English language. For example, we have new words such as kangaroo and boomerang from Australia. However, it is not really used outside of context of Australia. Meanwhile, words such as pajamas, candy, tank, and many others from India are words that we use nowadays. Now, I have introduced you to the three eras of English language. Let us compare them. Old English and Middle English have multiple differences. For example, going from the time they were spoken, as for example, Old English was spoken from the 5th to the 11th century. Meanwhile, Middle English was spoken from the 11th to the 15th century. They had different influences, and also their alphabet was quite different. Old English had the standard alphabet plus four letters. These were ash, foreign, F, and win. However, during Middle English, these four letters were dropped. Old English used to have three grammatical genders. These were masculine, feminine, and neuter. Something similar can be seen in Spanish and in Russian, the languages that we speak nowadays. However, during Middle English, these genders were lost, which is quite very convenient for us. Now let's compare Middle English and Modern English. Despite them having not quite a distinct difference between them, there are still some small and subtle differences that can be seen. For example, Middle English, despite being so blended and cultured, it did not have a standardized spelling. So, as I said before, there could be seen 500 different spellings for one word. This, thanks to the invention of screen typer in modern English, created standard spelling for different words. Also, one of the main distinctions that is not very not very popularized is the fact that the spellings in Middle English used to reflect the pronunciation. So, for example, the word night, as we say it nowadays, wouldn't be said in Middle English. It would be said as knicht. Now, obviously, in modern English, this is not what has happened. The spellings do not reflect the pronunciation, which could be quite a tricky thing for foreigners that learn this language. Now, let me conclude with my project. English is a widely used language in different spheres and different parts of the world. English consists of 3 eras. These were Old English with its four main dialects, Middle English, which borrowed multiple words from different languages, and Modern English, which was heavily influenced by different historical events. Old English and Middle English differ very much from each other. Meanwhile, Middle English and Modern English do not have such distinct features. Thank you for your attention.